Hi, everyone. I'm Jacob Michael, a program manager here at Closed, and I'm here talking with Carolyn Klinger from Affinity. Carolyn, it's great to chat with you again. Maybe before we jump really into it, tell us just a little bit about your role there at Affinity.
Thanks so much, Jake. It's wonderful to be with you as well, and really excited to share some information about our programs at Affinity. So, I am the Senior Director of Market Intelligence at Affinity. I run all of our competitive intelligence, market intelligence, customer experience, any sort of buyer and customer data. It all comes through myself and my team. And we've been doing this now for about 3 years and have collected some really, really great, rich information. So excited to tell you about that today.
Yeah, maybe take us to the beginning and just tell us in generally over an overview of your program. How long have you been running it? How has it been?
Yeah, so it's been a really great program. We started small. So when I was brought into Affinity in January of 2022, we started with a win-loss program and got that set up, all of the interview guides and the interviews and so forth, and started collecting that feedback and looking for some trends in the data. And that was really, really helpful information. We were looking at both our new customers, so net new buyers, as well as renewing customers. And at kind of the end of that year, about 8 months after we started our win-loss program, we also began a customer experience program. And so this is a way of looking at our existing customers, really trying to get ahead of the renewal and just checking in with them to see how they're doing, how their program's going, how the platform is working for them. And again, just to really protect that renewal, it gives our customer success team time to rectify any situation before they're in the kind of the negotiations on the renewal. We also started about a year after that, we started a post-implementation program. And so this is where we're looking at feedback from our new buyers in the first 30 days as we're onboarding them and migrating all of their data into Affinity. And we know from our experience with customers and with our buyers that the first 30 days are so, so critical. We really want to have strong utilization, high engagement with the platform. And so we've thought that that was an important point as well. So we're really trying to capture different customer and buyer data points across the entire customer journey or customer life cycle. And it's been really helpful to take that information and filter and cut the data in different ways to see how customers are interacting with Affinity.
That's awesome. Tell me just a little bit about the Affinity's competitive landscape, and and what you've really uncovered via your win-loss program in that area.
Yeah, so like many companies today, B2B SaaS companies and B2B companies in general, we have a very competitive market. So we have some competitors that we really track pretty intensively, and we're looking at them on a very critical basis in terms of what they're doing, what they're likely to do, new features, new functionality, new markets that they're going into. We also have kind of historical or legacy competitors. They may or may not be our top competitors, but there's some, businesses that we definitely want to keep an eye on as well. And then we also have kind of some upstart competitors, what I like to call ankle biters that are, maybe coming online, or maybe they're just smaller competitors, maybe they've been around for a while, but also wanting to make sure that we are tracking them as well. So we generally in within the competitive program on the win-loss program, we are categorizing or segmenting the customers in different tiers. So we've got kind of tier one, tier two, and then different product offerings. We've got maybe different sets of competitors. And so we segment the market and segment our customers as needed for our internal teams to get the best information from that data.
What did you do after you like noticed some of these ankle biters really kind of creep up more? Like, how do you really kind of like sound the alarm at your company and notify the right stakeholders?
Yeah, so that's a great question. We've got a lot of integrations with our closed program, with some of our other competitive intelligence tools as well. And so we make sure that we're integrated with Slack so that whenever we've got information that's coming through and we want to be able to share it with the broader team, we can do that on Slack. We also are reaching out to individual stakeholders. So if we've got specific information about features and functionality that a competitor is developing that maybe we're not as strong in, we're going to reach out to the product team or product marketing and share that information with them. We also do quite a bit of enablement with our customer facing and buyer facing teams, so sales and CS, and use the competitive information and the buyer feedback that we're getting from from those, those programs for our enablement as well. We also report out on a regular basis to our executive team. And so we'll take aggregate information and compare what's happened period over period. Maybe that's every 3 months, every 6 months. It really depends on how fast the market is moving or if there are very strategic decisions to be made and the executive team is needing a more frequent update. So we're really looking cross-functionally at the entire go-to-market team as well as our executive team to inform the business and really try to stay ahead of competitors and developments for our teams.
Yeah. Have you done anything different to really combat these competitors as they've kind of been up and coming and kind of coming after you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So one program that we started in late 2024 is what we call a swarm campaign. And this is targeted against one competitor in particular. It's a competitor that we've started to see quite a lot of in 2024, kind of in the spring to summer to fall of 2024, and then very intensively in late 2024. And we put together a very specific campaign against this competitor. We dubbed it the Swarm campaign because the general idea here is that we are going to swarm our AEs, our CSMs, whenever they're in a competitive deal against this particular vendor. And before we got to that point, before we were able to kind of come together and swarm those individuals, we did a lot of work in the background. So we were looking at some of the data from our win-loss program, from our CRM, and tracking to see how much this competitor has increased its presence in our market. So looking at that information by segment, by region, by vertical, looking at wins, looking at losses, and really trying to understand the environment. We also, from a marketing standpoint, put together a lot of different tools and assets, if you will. So things like nurture campaigns, landing pages, digital ads, where we're really trying to understand, who's looking at this competitor, including our existing customers, and then being able to inform our teams when they do. And then we also pulled together a core team. It's a cross-functional core team, but we've got individuals in addition to marketing and competitive. We've got individuals from our product team, from customer success, from solutions engineering, from sales, from enablement. So just a really great cross-section. And then whenever we do swarm an AE or a CSM, we'll kind of have an intake process, if you will, start to kind of triage what's going on, what are you seeing, what's the opportunity, what's the status, what have you talked with the point of contact about, and then what do you need from us? So maybe they need help with a demo, maybe they need help with the roadmap discussion, and so then we're pulling in the appropriate subject matter expert to help them, including on some customer calls or some buyer calls, to have that expert, that subject matter expert, join the call and really provide that support to our customer facing team. So it's been a great program so far, and it's something that we're also looking to scale to other competitors over time as well.
Yeah, just want to circle back on like when since you've instituted, swarm teams and really kind of this campaign against kind of to combat this competitor, have you seen any particular changes or anything that you've seen?
Yeah, so we have seen our win rate go up considerably. I think that's a combination of things, to be completely frank. On the one hand, I think our reporting has gotten better, and our processes have gotten better. So one example of that is that instead of within the when a sales rep or a CSM is going through the process, the different sales stages, instead of waiting till the very end and they've lost the opportunity and marking it as a closed loss, we're asking them to put in a primary competitor earlier in the sales stages because that gives us the opportunity then to come in and say, hey, I noticed that you're competing against vendor X. do you need help? What's going on? How can we support you and make sure that we win this deal? And so, in addition to the teams coming to us, we're also looking over their shoulders through different reporting and reaching out to them as well. So that's one thing, just in terms of, the the win rates are going up. We also think just by talking and having this core team where we're able to really act as a central clearinghouse. So we're able to see trends in the data. We're able to compare with what other CFMs or AEs are telling us. We're able then to push out that data much more efficiently and effectively, and so that's helping the different team members to improve their knowledge, their skills, and so forth. Um, so I think, just in terms of the win rates, definitely have gone up there as well. Um, and then I would also just say, in terms of, the results that we've seen from this particular program, we've also kind of looked at roadmaps, so product roadmaps, we've looked at sales roadmaps. So what are the features and functionality from a product standpoint that we need? What are the sales behaviors that we need to compete against this competitor? And then we've also kind of have offshoots from this core team as well. So I mentioned product, I mentioned CS, enablement, and so forth. Those individuals constitute our core team. But if you think of it in terms of a tree, we've also got smaller branches going off with subgroups. So we've got a subgroup starting just this week on looking at things like onboarding and migration or technical support and how can we improve in those areas. So as we are identifying different gaps in our capabilities, we're actioning on those and pulling in different subject matter experts from throughout the organization to make sure that we can make improvements.
How do you feel like I mean, I guess with this knowledge and everything you've done here with this particular competitor, I guess how do you hope to duplicate this approach across the rest of your competitor and the competitive landscape in which you operate?
Yeah, great question. So we've put a lot of infrastructure in place within our CRM, different reporting, different marketing and operational tools, to really be able to track this information on competitor number one. But we don't want all of that effort and energy to go to waste. And so it's very easy as we have designed the programs to be able to scale to other competitors. So as I mentioned earlier, we've got kind of a tier one listing of competitors. And within that tier one, there are one or two that kind of stand out, particularly in terms of being especially onerous for our sales teams. And so we will just go competitor by competitor, depending on what we're seeing in the market, and scale this up into those different, competitive scenarios.
For others that may be interested in how you at Affinity are doing this type of competitive campaign, what tips would you have for them?
Yeah, so I mentioned before about the marketing assets that we've put together. So the nurture campaigns and the landing pages and digital ads. I think for most people in competitive intelligence, certainly for myself, this was a whole different world for me. These were, terminology that I had heard before, but I wasn't necessarily clear in terms of what that meant. So I would say, as you're pulling together this type of campaign, especially if you're going to holistically integrate it with other digital components within your marketing organization, um, don't don't be shy about reaching out for help. Don't feel like you have to know everything. These are subject matter experts in their areas, so digital marketing, nurture campaigns, things like that, and just lean into it. You're an expert in your tools; they're experts in their tools, but lean on those colleagues in those different groups to ask for help. The other thing I would say is really to utilize your resources, your competitive intelligence resources that you've got at hand. So your win-loss program, customer experience, if you have that, any sort of scraping service that you might have in terms of pulling data in, from different parts of the internet, press releases, competitive press releases, things like that. But really kind of using all source intelligence, if you will, to inform yourself and your stakeholders. And then I think the final thing I would say is that if you've got a revenue operations team, you definitely want to be friends and enlist their help, be friends with them and enlist their help. I mentioned the different reporting that we've done, the different naming of a primary competitor within our CRM and a different sales stage. That all takes that is all process change. And so that's the type of thing that you'll want to work with other colleagues to make sure that you're effectively doing that and that you're able to scale the program if you'd like to going forward.
Oh, that's wonderful. And that's awesome. Really do appreciate that insight and advice. Just to wrap us up here, how else are you using Close to help you stay ahead of the competition?
Yeah, we use closed continuously. So we are constantly in the platform, reading every single word of every single profile. We've got a program set up where we've got premium interviews where a closed consultant is doing the interview for us and asking probing questions. For those interviews, we get a lot of good information because the consultant can ask those follow-up questions, and then if there's ever anything that we're really focused on from a product standpoint or support or what have you, we can have those conversations and say, please lean into these topic areas. And it's a very, partnership oriented discussion. We also use the closed flex interviews. And so those have been tremendously helpful. In the past, we had used surveys, and our experience with surveys was okay, but not great. What we found is that most people in our organization weren't really utilizing the surveys. And so we were asking our buyers and our customers to spend time filling them out, and they weren't really being used. I would say that's just the opposite for our flex interviews. We can get really, really rich information with the flex interviews, and the thing that I think I like probably the most about the flex interviews is that I've never once had a buyer or a customer come back to me and say, this is too long. This is the questionnaire or the survey is too long, which we've had in the past. Because with the flex interviews, they can speak or write for as long or as short as they'd like to. And so it's been really, really helpful that way. We also use the closed dashboard quite a bit, so we're able to filter on the information, anything in our CRM that we can filter on, we're filtering on in closed. We're tweaking our rules quite a bit. I don't know if that's, to the detriment of our closed colleagues, but we're constantly kind of looking at the break point for our premium interviews versus our flex interviews and adjusting that as need be. For our campaign that I was describing earlier, where we've got this very targeted campaign on one specific competitor, we're setting up different workflows for that specific competitor so we can adjust how we reach out to that vendor. So just a ton of flexibility in the program. I know that our users are using the closed AI quite a bit as well. So that natural language questioning, instead of going through hundreds and hundreds of profiles, they're able to quickly find the information. We still do tag all of our profiles. So just to be able to look at that information quickly and filter down to it using tags, we can do that quite a bit. And then our decision drivers and experience drivers for customer experience, we're using those also. I find that with the decision drivers, it's a great quantification of the qualitative feedback. So for those individuals internally who really want to see quantifiable information, the decision drivers really help us to do that. One final area, I feel like I could go on here for hours, but I'll just mention one
Totally
other
good.
thing. We do 6 reports every month using the closed reporting feature. So we've got these standard reports that we've set up, and for different parts of our organization, whether it's sales and win-loss, whether it's our customer success team and the renewal win-loss, whether it's just CS and customer experience. Um, we're sending out the reporting to different parts of the organization, and then we've got one monthly report for our win-loss program that goes out to everybody. So it's really helpful to keep the program top of mind and just to remind people that we've got this really rich trove of information that's available to anybody in the organization at any time.
Well, Carolyn, I really do appreciate that and appreciate your opportunity to chat with you today about your win-loss program and how you've been leveraging closed, especially at how you've been able to use it given the competitive landscape that you're operating in. Thank you so much for your time today. And with that, we'll end this conversation.